And welcome back to the Christmas series, and today is January 4th. God is the concept by which we measure our pain, as John Lennon once said. And frankly, he isn't wrong. God is the focal point of our blame, anger, frustration, and consternation. Whatever tragedy, setback, and trouble we experience, we aim our curses towards the Almighty, because somehow He wills it. We can warp our theology, try to find meaning in why these things happen, but it doesn't lessen the pain. I once equated it to find comfort in the person who caused the calamity. I mean, how can we turn to God for comfort when He seems to cause all this? I mean, they say we ought to live by God's will, but only if we surrender our own. Then what becomes of us? Do we cease to exist? Do we exist for God? Would it not be easier to never have been born at all? I mean, it would save us the trouble of having to go through all this, because it's a pointless exercise. We can say that there is no point to God, and frankly, there is a point in that. I wouldn't shed a tear if the world tossed God to the wayside, because He is the impediment to progress. If we did live by God's will, however we may discern it, where would we be? We would all live an agrarian lifestyle, reverting to a medieval world. I mean, sure, they say, we'll return to the world to its purity, but that doesn't help anybody. Does that mean we would revert to the prejudices of the past as well? I mean, how can we ever hope to achieve the greatest things if we limit ourselves to the will of God? Sure, I mean, we can say, we abide by His will or interpret it in our own way to suit ourselves and make ourselves feel better. But there's an itch in the back of our conscience saying something's not quite right. We're half-assed in the process and not giving it our 110%, because God demands all of us. Then what are we? If God truly respects our free will, it sure seems like He's keen to subvert it. I mean, that's like a shooter saying he won't shoot while aiming the gun at you. And if He did respect it, then He seems petty to cause calamity. The biggest load of nonsense was to assume the physical problems of the world were caused by our misuse of free will. I watched a video a while back where a priest actually said earthquakes, storms, and other natural disasters were caused by sin. I'm sure science isn't exactly the #1 subject taught in seminary, but still. I mean, for the love of God, how can you think that? I mean, next we'll say teeth fall out because we don't praise God enough. I mean, God is the concept of all our pain and misery. I feel like sometimes whenever I take a step forward, I am violently shoved backward. And it seems like every happy thought, every optimist outlook is shattered. God is the author of all this. However much I want to believe in Him, I can't. He's very much like an abusive parent who supplies your basic needs of food, shelter, and clothing, but then feels entitled to beat you down. I mean, I've been in that situation before. And God may be the father, but He is an abusive one. And what is heartbreaking is to think that even when we surrender ourselves to Him and say, fine, I'll go along with your plan, He'll just double down with the abuse with the excuse of making us better. I mean, anyone who's gone through abuse can attest to that lingo and shake their heads and say, this is just a load of bullshit.